everyone, and welcome back to another scrapbook process video. Finally, right? It's been forever. I do apologize about that, but you know, life happens. So I want to start out by explaining why I made this layout. So I am part of a Facebook group called Scrapbook Nerds Friends Group. And it's a Facebook page. So Scrapbook Nerd is an online store. I've never purchased from them. No reason why. I just simply have always gone with Scrapbook Generation or scrapbook.com if I order online. So I don't really know a lot about the store, and I'm not even really sure how I became part of their friends group. But I really like the group. There's lots of inspiration on there. So what they did was at the beginning of, well, more towards the end of last year, they asked for a bunch of people who might be interested in doing a layout hop. And I thought it sounded like a lot of fun, so I joined in. So at the beginning of this year, I actually probably did this layout about maybe the beginning of February. It wasn't long after my daughter got in her car accident because I know there was so much going on, and then it was my turn to do the layout. And so I was pretty freaked about when I was going to do it. And but I ended up I just made time because I had to. So what this is basically they take about, I don't know, each group maybe had around 20 people. And so the first person started based off a sketch, I believe, and they did a layout with what they drew inspiration from that sketch. And then, so the next person after the first person would get the first person's layout to go off of instead of the sketch. And then the second person's layout would go to the third person, and then the third person's layout would go to the fourth person. I hope that makes sense. If not, and you need me to explain it more, let me know below. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in doing, please join the group, Scrapbook Nerd Friends Group. And it's on Facebook again, and you don't have to have a YouTube channel. I don't even know if any of the other ladies did. I honestly didn't really pay attention to names too much. Like I said, this was a pretty busy time, and I did this layout back in February. I haven't uploaded it or anything because I didn't want to release this layout until they had released all of the layouts. And so it was really neat to see how 20 people later the layout turned out, and then look at the very first sketch, and it was really neat. It was a lot of fun, and they will be doing it again. So unfortunately I didn't get permission, or I don't have permission to show you the layout I took inspiration from. But here's what I did take inspiration from. So her background she had a big stripe background. That was her entire background, was stripes. She had some vellum torn paper strips going across her page. She had two photos. I believe they were 4x6, and they were kind of wonky, like I'm going to place mine on the layout. She had a black title above the photos, like I'm going to do, and she had hearts all over the place, and a couple other things I'll talk about as we go along. So the interesting thing about this, so my daughter graduated last year, and her school colors were black and orange, which I thought, oh, black and orange, that's not going to be any fun to scrapbook. But actually, I love the way it's turning out so far, and I am going to have a lot of fun, more fun than I thought. So what I'm doing, and this was actually my friend Terry's idea because her son also graduated last year, and ironically, he goes to a totally different school, but his colors were also black and orange. So she also sells Close to My Heart, and that orange and black striped paper that you see that I just inked the edges of is from a Halloween collection. And she gave me the idea to use part of this Halloween collection in with their graduation photos. And I absolutely love the way it turns out. There are more papers. I actually kind of want to get a few more. I'm not sure if they still sell them or not, but I am hoping to get, because there was one with orange and black and white stars all over. So you know, keep in mind, if you're looking for certain colors or something, look in your holiday collections and see what you might be able to find. So the other collection that I'm using is Doodlebug, and I think it's called Hats Off, and it's all graduation. And it's mostly blacks and silvers and kind of it's not a strong gold, but it's like a silverish gold color. And so what you see me doing here is I glued that piece too far up on the layout, and I tried turning it around so it was further down, and it didn't work. And when I tried pulling it up, it was very stuck down because I had used a lot of ATG adhesive on it, and it did not want to come up. And you can see me messing with this part here, which I will talk a little bit more about later, but it has a rip, and you can't really see it. I don't know how well you can see it on the right hand side there. There's a rip in the paper, and I'm going to take a little bit of my Tombow mono glue to kind of put it under there so it can stick down just a little bit more. But I am going to cover that up. In the end, you won't even really be able to tell it's there, and it turns out great. But you can see that I glued the paper up a little further now. And yeah, I kind of have the other one. It's a little bit ripped up, but I can use the other side, and so I'm not worried about it. So now I'm going to use my scrappy tape. Is that what it's called? I have lost my mind with that word right at the moment, but I'm going to glue down a couple pieces, and I'm using just a little bit more Tombow mono glue because I ripped that paper up. It's a little bit, you know, wonky and not completely straight, so I just used a little bit of glue and squished it underneath there to try to get that striped paper sitting down more flat. I don't care if there's any dimension and papers stick up, but I wanted to put these little black strips to kind of divide between the stripes. And that background paper is kind of a confetti type paper. It's got hearts and stars and circles and I think even squares on it. So it just looks like confetti everywhere. And the background for me on this layout is really rather busy, but I really like the way it turns out. And you'll see something I add to the page later on that will help it even more. And now I have that sheet of vellum, and originally I was going to tear the vellum up in the top and bottom of it, just like the lady whose layout I was taking inspiration from did. But I ended up putting it on here, and I actually liked the way that it didn't add too much attention to it, but it made those stripes just a little bit less subtle, and so the picture stood out even more on top of that vellum. So I just left it the way it is, and I really love it. These acrylic hearts that I am using are from that same Close to My Heart Halloween collection. So again, something that I can use on this. You would never know that those were made in a Halloween collection. There's a star one on the top of the screen. You can see it's upside down now, but so yeah, again, don't be afraid to search in your other collections if you are looking for a certain pattern or a certain color. Although a lot of people don't keep their stuff together by collections, I keep everything together, all of my kits by collection. If you haven't figured that out with my videos yet, that's just how I scrap. I love that everything coordinates. I have all the embellishments and everything to go with that paper. So that's just how I store everything. So I am going through the ephemera pack right now, and this ephemera pack is just for the graduation collection, but those stickers that you see on the right hand side of the paper, or excuse me, of the TV, whatever you're watching this on, is actually from the Halloween collection. Those ones are from the Doodlebug collection also, and then I also have mixed in with those that I'm going to add to the layout in a little while is some graduation phrase stickers that I got from Hobby Lobby, and whatever their Hobby Lobby brand name is, I'm not sure what it is, but also some owls. They're kind of a little bit of puffy sticker, which you will see me add a couple of those to the layout in a few minutes. But those are just the Recollections collection, and I've had them for a couple years now, and I've really wanted to use them, but they never really went with anything, and so I was happy to get some on this layout because I love owls. So anyways, there's the phrase stickers that I mentioned, and they're clear stickers, so they're going to give me a little bit of trouble, but we'll talk about that later. So like I mentioned in the beginning, the lady who I copied her layout had her title go above the two photos. This is basically how her photos were on her layout also. And so I pulled out mine. I definitely wanted to have my title up above the photos to bring in more from her layout. But I didn't know what I wanted my title to say. I really loved the scriptiness. I mean, look at that S. That S is beautiful. But I didn't know if I wanted it to say she's the graduate, she's graduating. I didn't know at this point. And I was going to go with we did it, but then I thought, you know what, she did it. And so I decided my title was going to be she did it. And I am going to play around. Oh no, that's right. It's you did it, not she did it. I'm going to play around with the placement of the title. So what is throwing me off at this point is Y, I wanted to use the real scripty letters of this alphabet. You can see that Y there is really flourishy. Well, it is throwing me off just a little bit because the Y is so curly, but the D is not. And then I put down the word it, and it's not real flourishy at all either. And it kind of, to me, it looked a little funny. Like, here's this capital Y with all this beautiful flourish to it, but all these other letters are kind of plain. So I'm going to try this capital T at the very end, thinking because it's real flourish that it's, but no, it did not look right at all. So I decide that I'm going to go ahead and add, instead of a lowercase letter at the beginning of each word, I'm going to add a capital letter to the beginning of each word. And so instead of a lowercase I here, I'm getting the capital I. And again, the capital I didn't really have, there's really no scriptiness in the word it on this page, but helping add the capital D really kind of helped with that. And in the end, I'm probably the only one that would notice, and maybe you guys since you're watching this video, but it turns out you can see it looks fairly good there. And I do add an exclamation point because it was exciting, so I'm quite happy with that. I am going to take a couple of glue dots and I'm going to stick them underneath because the vellum is kind of sticking up just a little bit. Again, sometimes that doesn't bother me because I think it gives shadows and dimension, but this time I didn't really want it sticking up. So I'm just placing the glue dots underneath the letters on the vellum, and I don't know if you saw me earlier when I glued down the vellum, I put adhesive behind the photos on the vellum so that you can't see any of the adhesive showing through the vellum. I've said adhesive and vellum so many times in that last sentence. So now I'm going to play around with my clusters, and I want to keep a cluster here because if you remember, there's that rip in the paper there, and that star, it's kind of that silvery goldish color that I was talking about in the beginning. It is going to cover up that rip really well, and you can hardly tell that the rip is there. So that worked out perfect. And I wanted another cluster, I'm thinking down here in the bottom left, but that's going to kind of throw me off with where to put the third cluster. And I could have gone, thinking about it now, I could have gone from the top right to the bottom left instead of having 3 go around the page. You know, a lot of times it'll look really good at an angle if you go from one side to the other, but I just wanted to add more to this page, and I do kind of keep adding more and more, you will see. And so these acrylic hearts are actually self-adhesive, and I thought about adding some more adhesive to them, and I probably should have. Cross your fingers for me, but the adhesive seems super strong, so I'm hoping that they don't fall off, because just like chipboard, a lot of things will fall off if you don't glue. Chipboard basically will always, if you don't add any extra adhesive, it will. This little speech bubble says woohoo, and that is something I say a lot in our family. I am always like woohoo, you know, for anything good. And so I really wanted to use it, but since it was a clear sticker, the background was just too busy, so I couldn't make it work. But I wanted to add something there in between the word you and the word did, and so I'm going to add one of those stars there for now. And then I had another star that was kind of the same silvery goldishness, and I'm going to put it in the cluster on the left and the cluster on the right. And at this point, I don't even think you can tell that the tear is there anymore at all, and so it worked out really well. So these paper clips were another thing you could buy to match the collection of, you know, the graduation collection, and I really wanted to use one of these. They are super cute and adorable, and there's not really many other places I'm going to use a graduation clip anyway, and I tried a bunch of different places. I even tried thinking maybe off the top of the layout, but on this kind of layout, there wasn't really many places to put the clip. I did think about breaking off the clipping part of it and just using the hat shape of it, but I looked at it for a second and I realized that wasn't going to happen. So back to the inspiration layout, she had done her journaling on the bottom right hand corner, and since she did it with cursive writing, it was real kind of scripty but down there. So I thought I would add in that sticker. I don't know what it says, it's been a while since I've done this layout, but you can see I added it down in the right hand corner, and also thinking that would help draw your eye around the page and that I would add a few more words around. And this little graduation cap was also a sticker from that same sheet. It's kind of clear, cap is black, but the rest of it works. And then I'm going to add it into this cluster, and that's going to cover up anything left over from that tear that you could see. And so now, unless you know it's there like me and you do, because we talked about it, nobody's going to notice. So my daughter was in love with this page, and that made me happy because this was all for her. Anyway, so I added another word phrase up onto the top very left-hand side of the page, as you can see there, and that I wish I hadn't done. It's going to throw me off quite a bit because now I feel like there's things all over the page and none of it's making your eye flow, and I can't get the hearts to work to kind of have a set of 3 to bring your eye around the page. And after a few minutes of, see, you can see me there, I'm trying to pull it up, but those, nope, that sucker was not going to come up whatsoever. So I decided just to go with it, and what I decided was I'm just going to start gluing things down, and I don't even care, you know, I'm just going to have fun with this page. And I like what I did. I liked the fact that I just kind of let myself go and not even worry about it, and it turned out great. So here is the thing that I mentioned in the beginning that's even going to help the page flow together even more. So I believe I've used these in a video before, although they were snowflake shaped. So these are the little confetti pieces, and again, Nuvo, I believe the company Nuvo. I don't know if they have a more technical name other than Nuvo, but these are silver stars and circles, and the circles are more of a kind of iridescent color. And I'm just going to put down, this is the first layout that I use 2 different kinds on, and I love it. I just kind of take my Tombow mono glue and I kind of tap the tip of the glue where the glue comes out, and if I need to squeeze just a tiny bit, I will, but since I keep it upside down like that in that cup, it's usually the glue's right there on the edge, and if you tap, it'll just tap the tiniest little drop. And I just take my little quick pick up stool, I don't know, picky uppy tool is what I used to call it, so I'll just continue with that because I can't remember the name. And I just kind of go around and I just add some dots of glue, and then I just go around and add them. So you can see me here, I'm adding some dots of glue. I even added a couple onto the photo. I wanted it to seem more like confetti, since that background paper had a real confetti flying everywhere look. I wanted just to kind of keep that going around. And when you look at the page in person, it really helps bring everything together. They are scattered all around the page, but they're kind of scattered in clusters of 5. And so it's kind of an odd number. It kind of keeps the odd number rule going, even though I totally, if you don't want to follow rules of scrapbooking, please don't. Do whatever makes you happy and whatever you like. But this is definitely my new thing, and I just really like the way that this looks. And in the close-up photos in the end, you can actually see some of the confetti pieces. You can see some of the stars and circles, I believe. And it just gives it's almost like tiny enamel dots, but they don't have really much dimension to them because they're just flat. They're not sequins, but they could be considered sequins. And I believe they're made to go in shaker cards, but you know, do something different and original and call it good. I saw some people doing this on cards, and that's where I got the idea from. She had used some that she'd gotten from Martha Stewart, and boy, they were beautiful, and so I searched everywhere, but I couldn't find the same Martha Stewart ones. But these ones are okay, and even Michael sells some of these little confetti pieces too, so they can be found pretty much anywhere. So now my page is pretty much done, and I'm going to make a big mistake here because I got out my glue, and just as I was stamping the date, and I'm just going to put June of 2018. Is it 2018? Yeah, last year was 2018. I'm a little confused with my dates because it's been so crazy busy around here, but right after I did the word June, I realized I used Close to My Heart ink on vellum, and this specific ink of theirs, I think they have more ink pads now that are made to go on vellum and things like that, but this one is not, and so it's gonna never dry. And I waited a few minutes, and I did try, I'm thinking, okay, I'll just leave it, I'll try to fix it, maybe I'll stamp over it. And here's my StazOn ink that I used for the 2018, and here I even got a baby wipe. There was very little moisture to that baby wipe. I would not use a super wet baby wipe for that, but I was hoping that I could even clean it off with the baby wipe, but it was still on there. And so I am I'm looking around now because with this stamp, I don't know the name of these stamps, but they kind of clip together. They don't have years on them, but they have the numbers 1 through like 31. I'm going to zoom in here so you can kind of see what I am doing and what I'm working with. So you can see I got the June off, or at least lighter, and then I tried covering it up with a sequin, but that wasn't going to work unless I wanted to pile a bunch of sequins there together. So my solution is going to be, I'm even trying my white eraser and I'm really rubbing it. I was like, dang, I like every part of this page except I ruined the date, and so I was pretty bummed. But I decided I'm just going to go and look at this sticker sheet, and I'm going to add stickers, word stickers around, and then I'm going to re-stamp the date with the stays on underneath that. So it does turn out in the end. And remember, if you make a mistake, feel free, you've got stickers everywhere. Cover it up with a sticker, an embellishment, a glue dot, or not a glue dot, I'm thinking an enamel dot. Cover it up with, there's so many things. And there's actually been times when I've stamped my date on, usually I use white cardstock. I've stamped my date on white cardstock and I stamped it wrong. So what I'll do is just stamp it on a scrap piece of white cardstock and trim it down and tape that right over the messed up date, and it turns out perfectly fine and nobody ever notices. So, use your imagination if you mess up something on your layout. And we are here to the close-up photos. I had so much fun doing this hop. If you're interested, let me know if you have any more questions, if you need help finding the group, anything like that. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I'm sorry I haven't had videos out, but I've got a bunch recorded, so they will be coming. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.